Real stories.
Hello there. Hi there. Good day. Hello. How you doing? It's me. It's Rowan. We're back. It's Real Stories. Hi, Tom.
Hello, Rowan.
How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. Welcome back, everybody, to
Some
our
big energy on the show today.
huge energy. We've started at a high there.
Oh, love it.
It's only going to go down from there. So, yeah, welcome back to Real Stories, the podcast that celebrates all things story. So, as per usual, Rowan and I have both brought story to the table, which we will share with each other, and then it will become our task to figure out whether that story is true or the narrative from a film.
What's on the agenda today, Tom?
So my story has taken us back to a period of time that we've not been to for a while on this podcast. And when I say a while, I mean one episode. We're returning to World War II.
Oh, thank God. I really missed it last week.
The log line of my story is, in the midst of the Second World War, a man in the Royal Navy experiences a miracle while his family back home are faced with their own wartime struggles.
What's the miracle?
You'll find out.
Ooh,
Don't jump the gun, sir.
Cool. Do you want a sneak peek of mine?
Please.
I'll present it again like a news story, if that's okay.
Okay.
Do you want to do the bongs?
Bong.
Trade wars are happening.
Bong.
Trump's still mental.
Bong.
Virus sweeps through France, making everyone dance uncontrollably.
And on the topic of bongs, Bong Joon-ho's new film is out this Friday, Mickey 17. I'm very excited to watch that one.
It looks good. Looks good. Have you read the book?
No.
No, me neither.
But it's called Mickey 7, isn't it? I saw an interview where they were like, why have you called it Mickey 17? And he was like, because then I got to kill him 10 more times.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I bet it's going to be, I bet that'll go really quickly as well. There'll be like a little like sequence at the start where it just shows him dying like 10 times.
Yeah.
Awesome. Looking forward to that. Tom, do you want to kick us off?
Real stories.
As I said, we're going to go back to wartime Britain.
Thank God.
And we're going to meet our protagonist of my story for the week, a man called Bertram.
Oh, so we're in Britain.
We are in Britain.
So we've never been in Britain during the war, have we?
Well, there you go. There's a first.
Oh, good stuff.
Our protagonist, Bertram, who is also...
Bertram.
Don't you laugh at the
No,
name
I'm not
Bertram.
laughing.
I think
That
it's a beautiful
is
name.
a classic World
That is
War
a classic
II name.
He is also known as Dandy. So through this story, I'm going to refer to him as Bertram, but if he is sometimes referred to as Dandy, that's also
fine.
him. Okay, so he is living just a standard British life at home with his wife, Ivy, and their children, Alma and Brian.
How old
All
is Brian?
These male names you're finding classic today.
How old is Brian at this point?
He's a child, I don't know. Brians are born at 40 years old, aren't
Exactly, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Bertram is the sort of man who children just gravitate towards, and he works as a printer's assistant in a national newspaper.
Okay.
That's all we're going to learn about him before the war begins. And he is signed up to the war, and he joins the Royal Navy, and he boards the Ramillies destroyer ship. And destroyer ships, they were used to protect convoys from submarines and aircrafts and other surface ships.
Right.
And he spends most of the war on this ship, but also a few other ships at times. Like he kind of ship jumps, you could say. And his role on board is the role of a signalman who operates the ship's radio equipment, and he interprets Morse code messages.
Oh, okay.
And at first he was reluctant to join at the war, as I imagine most people were. No one really
probably
leapt at the opportunity. It wasn't the most popular job opening, but a lot of people had no choice. And he did just take to it, and he was kind of like the model recruit over the year. He did as he said, and he put it all on deck, literally. While he is out there working, we'll leave him for a bit. There's two narratives here.
Oh, God.
We've got Bertram in the war.
Okay.
And we're going to go back to England, and we're going to learn a little bit about his family.
How's Brian getting on?
To be fair, we don't learn too much about Brian. His name is about as far as we get with his details for today. But they're living their own wartime lives back in Britain. And his daughter Alma is given a gas mask at school because that is their normality. She doesn't question the fact she's getting given a gas mask, but all she feels is disappointment at the fact that it's a normal gas mask and not a special Mickey Mouse designed gas mask.
Did they have them?
They did, and if you look them up, they are horrifying.
I can imagine.
But children at that time...
that mouse never misses a trick, does he? To get some branding on
everything is
something.
marketing, even a world war.
I bet they were on COVID masks as well, wasn't it? Mickey Mouse.
Most likely.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was disappointed that her mask wasn't Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, fair enough.
And simultaneously, they have a dog that's running around their house and their garden called Teddy, and he does play quite an important role in this.
Okay.
But one thing to know about Teddy was that he was a fun-loving dog, and he loved a game. So very often,
That's very unusual for a dog.
Teddy would join in with the games of the children in the neighborhood, and they played a lot of jump rope. Might sound unbelievable, but Teddy was an incredibly good jump roper.
Right.
And the children would stand at either side of the road, and they would swing this massive jump rope, and Teddy would stand in the middle of the road, and he would jump and jump which is incredible for a dog. I've never seen that. And as he jumps, there was a rhyme that the children would sing.
I don't think that's that incredible, Tom. I'm not going to lie.
Well, different horses for different courses. And there's a song that the children sang as Teddy jumped, and it was Queen, Queen Caroline washed her face in turpentine, combed her hair with donkey's tail, scratched her back with his big toenail.
Where is this going, Tom?
I'm just kind of setting the tone here for what their life is. So quite regularly, as you would expect, they have to go to the air raid shelter. And when they're in there, they can hear the German drones flying overhead.
Drones?
German drones, like the planes.
Oh, okay.
Not
like
DJI.
a DJI mini going overhead.
So every time they go into the air raid shelter, Alma, who's the little girl, let's say she's about 7 at this point, she's always thinking, how does mum always have a hot drink? Because like you don't know when those sirens are going to go off and you have to go down to the air raid shelter. But every time
this is the important stuff you're speaking about.
Every time they do, their mum, Ivy, always seems to have a hot drink. So her whimsical child brain is like, mum is magical. She can predict the future. She knows exactly when that siren is about to go off. One day, the kids wake up and they think, it's playtime. They go outside, they get Teddy on the lead, and they're like, Teddy, it's time to jump. And they start singing, Queen, Queen Caroline washed her face in turpentine. And unfortunately, in that very moment, a car came down the road. And that was the only car in the neighborhood. And it was owned by the major from the local Salvation Army.
Oh.
So he should have been the neighborhood saint. But in this moment, he was far from it because he does run over Teddy.
Oh.
And even worse is that he doesn't just run over the dog. He runs over the dog, doesn't look back. He just carries on. He doesn't care. He just, to him, it's he's hit a leaf that was blowing in the wind.
God.
Okay, so Alma runs inside and tells her mum, and her mum comes out, picks the dog up, takes the dog inside, but the dog does pass away. Oh. And in retaliation to this, some other people in the neighborhood go to the major and they let the air out of his tires.
Oh, that'll teach him. What's Brian doing?
I don't know, actually. He's kind of a peripheral character on this.
Yeah, I feel a bit sorry for Brian.
Brian's just doing as all Brians do.
Classic Bri.
So that is what the family were up to at home. And now we're going to go back to Bertram.
Right.
And he's working hard on the ship. And this is the key part of this story, okay?
All right.
Envision this. The wind is howling. The sea is crashing. It's a stormy day. We're in the eye of the storm. But there's no two ways about it in the war. You either do your job or you don't do your job. And if you don't do your job, it's not going to end well for you.
No.
So it doesn't matter that the waves are choppy. Brian's on deck. Nope, Brian's not on deck. Brian's back home. Bertram's on deck.
That would be a twist.
Bertram's on deck.
Okay.
And he's working hard when all of a sudden a huge wave crashes onto the ship and it immediately takes him off. To him, it feels like he's just vanished. And all of a sudden he's in the ocean.
Yeah.
And he's quite a strong swimmer, so he's able to not immediately go down. He can like kind of steady himself, but steadying yourself in a stormy sea is a bit obsolete because you're just going to go wherever the wind blows you.
Yeah.
He thinks this is it. Like, what can you do in that situation? You're not going to be able to get back on that massive ship unless a miracle happens.
Oh.
And all of a sudden, another enormous wave picks him up and throws him straight back onto the ship. Right back on the deck. And amazingly, this might be the wartime mindset. He just thinks, that was quite cool. And he gets up and he carries on.
Do that again.
He carries on and he doesn't even have a renewed sense of purpose in life. He just takes it on the chin.
No.
And he gets back to his war duties.
Yeah. Nowadays, we'd be making a TikTok about that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. This would be going viral. MEM would be all over this.
Absolutely.
Let's fast forward a bit. We're going to the end of the war and Bertram is returning home. And he has an emotional reunion with his family.
But not Teddy.
Not Teddy, unfortunately, no. And Bertram wanted to bring something back with him to kind of show to his family. Because remember, the country was very closed off in the war. There was no trade happening.
No.
And he brings back one particular thing and it blows his children's mind. A banana.
Oh, okay.
So he brings back this banana, which isn't yellow, as you would expect a banana to be. It's like black and mushed up.
Nice.
But he gives it to the children. He says, I've been in South Africa. Look what I've brought home from South Africa.
Oh, but they were thrilled.
They were. Alma, the daughter, was so excited that she took it into school as like a show and tell and was like, guys, look at this. And all the kids gathered around. They're like, oh my days, what is that? And she's like, it's a banana. Get used to them because they're here now. The war is over. Bananas are here. Okay.
Bananas are here.
And I think that right there is kind of an opening up of those children's world. It's like the war is over, so they're going to start seeing more of these things. Yeah. And, it starts at a banana, then they might go on holiday somewhere else. Then eventually we get to where we are now, and that's why I think we need to be a bit more appreciative of the fact that we can go wherever we want, we can see whatever we want. Because
love
at
a
some
banana.
point, a banana would have blown our mind.
Yeah. I don't know if I want to eat a black mushy one. That's probably a step too far.
If it's either a black mushy banana or no banana ever,
Probably go
give
for
me
the-
that mush.
probably
I'll
go for
suck
the-
it up.
Really? Interesting. What does that say about you, Tom? I think you want to think about that.
That
Okay. Is that it?
is where the story ends.
Really?
What do you mean is that he survived a miracle?
Yeah, but what was the thing about the dog jumping over a lead all about?
That was just the two running narratives of the story.
I think you could have cut that out.
think I should
If
have
we're in
focused-
post right now, I'm like, cut the bit with the dog. Doesn't go anywhere. Doesn't add anything to the story.
Okay, but are we in post or are we in post reality? Did anything here stand
Is
out
that
to you?
genuinely the end?
That is genuinely the end.
Wow.
The war ended. That's what they said after World War II. Is that genuinely the end?
Is that it? Is that it? Okay. Wow. I don't want to seem ungrateful, Tom, but no, I just thought there was more coming. I just thought that was leading to
Maybe I didn't give enough
something.
precedent to the miracle in the middle of the story.
So yeah, as always, is this a film or is this a real story, a real life story?
That's the question for you, my friend.
All the way through, I was thinking this sounds incredibly plausible. Like I thought the
It's
miracle,
a realist and a half story.
yeah, I thought the miracle was going to be like the dog turned up in wherever he was and helped him.
It was all
no,
world building.
It really
building.
was, but it's got two narratives going on at the same time. Most facts would not include the bit with the dog, to be honest. That would not make the cut. So yeah, for this one, Tom, I'm going to say real with 2 E's.
I think it's a film.
Yeah, I think
and
it's
you
a
also
film.
think it's an underwhelming film.
I think it's quite an underwhelming
Not a film that's going to go on your watch list.
No.
Well, I'm going to take that personally that you think it's underwhelming.
Oh, no.
And to reveal whether it is a film
Yeah.
or true today, I'm going to hand over to my gran.
Oh, no!
Yes, it was during the Second World War, and Dandy, my dad, was in the Royal Navy. I don't know where they were actually going, but it was very rough seas, and he was on duty, and he was on the deck. The weather was not very good when a big wave came over and dragged him into the sea, and luckily he was a good swimmer, but another wave came back fairly quickly and took him back onto the deck of the ship. Obviously, it saved his life coming back, otherwise he would definitely have been drowned. And he just carried on working then. At the end of the war, my dad came back and he went from his ship in another area, so he had to come home by train, and he was in his sailor suit, and my mum had made a little suit herself because she could sew quite well, in the same uniform as a sailor suit. And I remember going to the station and ran up to him, and he hugged me, but it was nice because I do remember this little sailor suit that I wore. And he brought this fruit back, just one, and it was black, and we'd never seen what it was before. It was long with a skin, and you peeled them apparently, and you ate it. It was a fruit, and it was a banana, which we know now as a banana. And this thing that he brought back was black. Well, it's because it was so old that it had gone from yellow to black. I think I took it to school to show the teacher and the children, but of course it was a load of mash at that stage.
What did they say when you took it?
Can't really remember, but they'd be very surprised, I bet. They'd just wonder what that thing was. Because, of course, they'd have to be imported, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
From South Africa, where my dad had been with the Royal Navy.
Yeah, so Alma was my gran, Brian was her
Oh.
brother, Ivy was her mum, and Bertrand was her dad. Bertram, sorry, was her dad. And the reason he was called Dandy, I just wanted to mention that, but he wasn't actually called Dandy till later in life when Gran had her son Martin, and he couldn't say granddad, and he called it Dandy. He called him Dandy. So all of our family since then have called him Dandy. And I just thought I wanted to choose that story because amidst all the grandeur of like cinematic storytelling, where stories are normally just amazing and massive, sometimes there are also amazing stories that are just there, and sometimes it's a banana and it's a wave that is the story of people's lives.
I want to start off by formally apologizing to your gran.
You called my gran's life boring.
I'm so sorry. I'm really sorry.
I don't think she often listens to podcasts.
No, but if she does, I'm really sorry. I've met your gran a couple of times. She's a very lovely woman.
She's very lovely.
She's very lovely.
And
And
she
that
was
was
so
a very
willing-
sweet story.
She was very willing to tell her story.
Oh, that's really nice. That's so... Oh, God, I feel awful now.
No, I love just sitting down. Like, that was just a 3-minute cut of like 20 minutes of her talking. And I think it's so important to anyone in your life, especially if they're a bit older. They've got so many stories.
No, it's
and
very true.
Asking them to tell you their story isn't just good for you because you learn about them. It's good for them because you see this glitter and this glimmer in their eye that only comes when you reaching into your story.
Love talking about. I know. I think about it. So I actually was talking about this the other day. Actually, like both my nans have died now, and there's a lot of stuff that like because you're younger, you don't ask. And then when you're old, you're like, oh, yeah, I wish I asked that. But similar things, really, like just war stories and that. Like I remember my nan telling me about her during an air raid in Coventry. They all went into like an air raid shower, but her dad, so my great-granddad, he was like out of the pub when it was happening, so he didn't come back. And it was like the next day, like afternoon, he still hadn't come back. So they were all thinking like, oh God, he's dead. Like obviously the air raid was over. Like the place was a mess. It was during the Blitz, so the whole place was destroyed. And then like that evening, he turned up with a kitten and apparently he just got really drunk, blacked out somewhere, woke up, realized, oh, I'm in the doghouse. He found a kitten. He thought, I'll just take this home as a gift. Hopefully they'll forgive me.
But yeah, there's so many stories out there. Just ask people to tell you their stories.
No, definitely. If you're lucky enough to still have that, then definitely. Oh, that was lovely. That's probably the best one yet. That's gone from me thinking this is awful
I was kind
to
of
that's the best
I
one.
kind of let the story sound a bit underwhelming because I thought
but that shows like context. Like I think if that story began with if you said, oh, it begins with like your gran telling it. It doesn't add more to the story, but it's like it's the personal touch to it that brings.
And that's actually also why I did the 2 running narratives, because I thought this is going to make Rowan think it's a film, and after all this, the game is the game, and I win once more.
Oh God, you got me. You got me good.
Thanks, Gran, for that. I love you.
Thanks, Tom's Gran.
Real stories.
Oh, I don't know if I can compete with that today, Tom. I'm going further back than I think we've ever gone, actually. We were in the 1500s. Things are very folksy. They're very creepy. And most importantly, Tom, very French. We're in France.
Okay.
And we're in the town of Strasbourg. You ever been?
Not been, but I've heard.
No, me neither. Have you ever heard of the album Dance Fever by Florence and the Machine?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is actually the context behind that. This is the story behind why she called it Dance Fever. So the story begins with a character called Frau, who is acting strange and unusual. One night, she suddenly begins dancing in a square in Strasbourg, and she looks sort of possessed. She doesn't look of sane mind. She's kind of like dancing sporadically. It's not like she's not just like doing a dab or whatever. She's
that sort of thing happens quite a lot in
It is,
Manchester
but
City
it's usually a
Centre as
camera
well.
on the other end and 16-year-olds all clapping.
True.
Yeah, so no matter how hard the townsfolk tried, they actually couldn't get her to stop dancing. They were like, Frau, come on, what are you doing? Stop it. She wasn't talking to them. She was just dancing. She was just.
How long had she been going for at this point?
Well, they sort of left her to it, so she'd been.
You
going...
would do, wouldn't you? You wouldn't. The woman dancing in the street. You're not going to approach her
because like day turned to night, and she was just kept dancing. She just would not stop dancing. So they were like, "Oh, crack on. She'll tire herself out." But the next day, she's still going. So they kind of entertained at first. They provide music for a dance-a-thon, but as time goes on, they're like, oh, we should probably do something about this. This is not good for Frau. So they call in this physician. They call in this physician.
Oh, I don't want to try and say it now. I'm going to add flames to the fire.
They call in this physician
Doesn't sound right, but I don't know.
Sound right.
Well, it's physics.
They call him a
Physician.
physician.
We'll say physician.
Yeah, called Hendrik, and he sort of enters to investigate and sort of try and figure out what's wrong with
So
him.
at this point, there are all these people just kind of like stood watching us, like hands
Yeah.
on hips, like,
Well,
what is she doing? We need to open a case study
There's not
here.
that much going on.
True.
There's not much entertainment
I
knocking
forgot
about.
we were that far back, actually.
Yeah, so they're like, this is pretty good. She's pretty good at this.
I wonder what kind of dance it was.
I don't
Was
know.
it Will Kemp's jig?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it's definitely a jig of some sort, I
Yeah.
reckon. He kind of puts it down to heat at first. It's quite a warm period. And he sort of kind of thinks, this isn't a big deal. What are they going on about? He's only seen it for like that day. He kind of thinks like, I don't know, she's just having a dance. Just let her have a dance. I tell you what, Tom, the dancing does not stop. In fact...
Amen, brother.
Oh, yeah.
So I say on a Saturday night.
And for days and days, she keeps going, day and night. She doesn't stop. She doesn't sleep. She's just dancing, right?
Does she feed herself in any way?
No.
Just feeding
She's
through
just
the dance?
dancing. There's no
Right.
time. So obviously Hendrik's bewildered by this. He can't figure out why Frau is still dancing. And worse still, Tom, things are starting to get worse. Other people are joining in. More people are dancing.
That's not worse. That's better.
Why is that
Flash
better?
mobbing it in the 1500s.
No, but they're also dancing sporadically. They're not talking. They're clearly like, they're like infected almost. Right. Obviously, this is mildly concerning. And every night, more and more people are joining her in this dance, and they're all mimicking her. Like the way she's dancing, like doing this like weird dance. They're all doing
Was
that.
she dancing like rhythmically, or was it her body moving in a way where it looked like she was
Well,
dancing?
this is the thing. Yeah, I guess it looked like dancing in the way it was, but
Is it the
dancing?
equivalent of if you walk past someone that was lay on the floor and they were like, and you were like, they're opera singing?
No, I'd be like, are you okay? Why would someone be on the floor making
I
that
don't know,
noise?
but why is she in the street for 5 days straight dancing?
Well, yeah, it's a good question. It gets so bad that blood begins to pool into their swollen feet, and eventually they bleed into their shoes. Right?
Blimey.
They've been dancing for so long, and often
they've
they'll
got
be,
shoes on.
Yeah, the shoes back then.
Did they? I wonder what sort of shoes they were.
Crocs, probably. But often they would also be heard crying for help. So like they just like go from like help. So then back to dancing. It,
Okay.
like very creepy. Very creepy.
That was
scenes.
very visual for an audio podcast.
That's true, yeah.
Rowan danced there, everybody.
And then I said help. But yeah, if you were like out on a night out, 42s, having a boogie, and then someone went, help, you'd be a bit concerned, wouldn't
oh,
you?
they put the Beatles on. Do you need somebody?
Love that. Great joke. It's bad. Things are getting bad. And if the victims of this... I'm gonna
Michael
call it a
Jackson as
disease.
well.
Right, stop it now. Sorry,
Okay,
this is
sorry.
serious. I'm about to talk about victims dying here.
Okay.
So if they didn't succumb to a heart attack, they would eventually collapse from extreme exhaustion, hunger, and thirst. And after a week, even Frau, the OG dancer, suddenly collapsed and died. You might think, okay, well, that's it, done. Everyone else is going to stop dancing. But no, the dancing from the other infected did not stop. And Hendrik now, he's panicking big time because like the dancing's not stopping. More and more people are joining in. It gets so bad that about 15 people a day are dying from dancing.
Are they all in one place, or is this now just widespread? It's
Well,
like become a bit of a pandemic. Not pandemic. It's probably not global,
it
is it?
starts to spread. Starts to spread into other towns. So that's why it's getting more and more confusing because people who aren't even aware that this is going on are starting to dance. So it is treated as like a disease, and priests start praying that they sort of think that the dancers are like it's some sort of sign from God. They're possessed, so they're like praying like, "Oh, release our sweet children." The townsfolk begin getting more and more like anxious. Rightly, they sort of think, "What if I'm next? Like, what do we do?" And Hendrik is like, "Oh, I'm not cut out for this." 15 people a day are now dying from the disease, and it's wiped out whole families at this point. Right, it's getting bad. So Hendrik starts theorizing like, why could this be? But nothing makes sense. He sort of thinks like, oh, could it be food poisoning from like a fungi in the bread and the grain, which is very Last of Us, if you remember. That's the plot of The Last of Us. Causing like an LSD trip or something like that. Or could it be like stress-induced hysteria caused by anxieties at the time, such as like there's a famine going on? Or could it be like the smallpox? Nothing seems to make sense because not everyone had been in contact with the fungi. Not everyone had eaten bread. And not everyone was stressed. Some people were saying like, no, he was absolutely fine yesterday. And now
Have they all
now
been
he's
in
dancing.
contact with someone else that was dancing?
No.
So it was purely visual.
Well, people don't even realize, like in other towns, people aren't even aware this is going on and they're starting to dance. So he comes to his final suggestion and theory, which is probably his most scientifically accurate. And that is that they have some sort of demonic possession. The authorities begin sending the dancers away from the towns in the hope that this will stop the infection. Churches are like emptied and all the dancers are just sort of thrown in there.
The pews are moved away.
Yeah.
Massive dance floor.
Absolutely.
If it's going to happen, let's make it
starts,
happen properly.
The DJ comes in, and they're hoping that maybe this will, like, God will help them in some way, but obviously it doesn't work.
But then God just starts dancing. It's like, not you as well,
Everyone's
sir.
dancing. Get involved. Hendrik is now like, he doesn't know what to do. Nothing he's doing helps. Not like moving them away doesn't help. So he takes one final stand, and he takes the remaining dancers up to a nearby mountain to pray for absolution. Right? Famously, mountains are quite tall, close to God. But here they were left because they just did not stop dancing. So they just leave them at the top of this mountain. But Hendrik never left them. Do you want to know why, Tom?
Did he start dancing?
He was dancing.
infected.
He started dancing at the top of that mountain.
You can fight the dance as long as you want, but eventually
Absolutely.
the dance will get you.
No, yeah. That's where our story ends. It's quite a tragic ending.
Well,
Eventually
that
people
can't
did
be
stop
where
dancing. But that's
where the story ends, because people don't still dance medically
yeah,
today, do they?
eventually
You don't
people
go
do
into
stop dancing,
hospital and
but
it's like,
that-
this is the dancing
it
wall.
remains a mystery to this day.
I'm surely like doctors have done some research.
Well, yeah, I get all the stuff like with the fungi and bread. Obviously, they've been looking into that. Like, could that be why? And
Maybe they all had lice,
could have had lice. Could have been itching. Could
itching.
have just been itching the whole time.
Maybe they were all just dancing.
Yeah,
Why does history have to be so negative?
exactly.
Like, they were all dancing in the 1500s.
Yeah.
There must have been something
They're
wrong
just
with that. Maybe they
passionate.
just like dancing.
Just passionate about their art.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, my question is it real or real?
I'm fairly confident with it
Yeah.
that this is absolutely, without a doubt, a true story.
I think it's true.
Yeah.
Tom, I can reveal. It is.
Good
But
job.
also,
I'm upset.
It's a true story, but people doubt that it's true.
it's both. Let me explain. So this is a real story. It's not based. It happened actually in the 1500s, and people did just start dancing for no real apparent reason. Hendrik was real. He was a physician, although I kind of took
You've said it right first time, though.
physician.
There you
He's
go.
a physician.
See, you stop thinking about something, and all of a sudden it becomes
I need to
easy.
believe in myself more. He was a physician, but I kind of took a liberty at the end. I don't know if he kept dancing or not, but I thought that was quite nice.
Oh, okay.
He
Sometimes
might
the
have.
truth doesn't
He
matter.
might have. We don't know much about him, so he could have.
True.
But Jonathan Glazer, you know Jonathan Glazer?
Yeah.
He created a short film in 2020 during COVID, loosely based on these events, but it was called Strasbourg 1518.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
So it was a dance interpretation, and it was meant to be like what happened during them. But obviously, it's set in like houses because it's during COVID. So it's kind of like it is technically a film, but it's also a real story.
But yeah, there are lots of true stories that become films, but it doesn't stop them being a true story, does it?
No, exactly.
I'm so interested in like things like the 1500s, how the verification process, like this is a true story.
Well,
How
it's a
does
lot.
that-
There's a lot of written evidence for this
Yeah.
happening, and also that it happened in different towns where people couldn't possibly know it was happening somewhere else at
Right.
the same time. And there's other cases of this happening throughout history, not just at this time. And yeah, it could have been the fungi thing, like an LSD trip. It could have been stress. People don't really know. But yeah, no. So I'm going to say, yeah, you got that right, because I did frame it as a true story. It is just a little twist at the end that it is actually also kind of a film. But
Okay.
yeah, well done, Tom. You've won again. Well done.
Let's
Good
go
job.
dancing.
So it's time for our real commendation of the week, Tom.
I'm going to do a different kind of recommendation.
Okay.
I'm going to throw it back to what I said earlier. I'm just going to
Ah.
say my recommendation this week is to find somebody in your life and to say to them, please tell me a story that I don't know has happened in your life. And I will sit here with a cup of tea and we'll talk until this tea is cold or consumed, because it's worth it,
What, if
both
you
for
don't like
you
tea?
and for the storyteller. Well, they're going to spill it.
God, you're good at this. You're good at this, Tom. You should do a podcast. My real commendation, just because it's the last thing I watched that Grand Theft Hamlet last night on Mubi.
Where did you watch it?
Mubi. It's on Mubi now. What? Very odd, but I enjoyed it.
I do want to watch that.
Yeah, if you don't know, it's basically a group of people during COVID. They created a version of Hamlet using GTA. And it's kind of like the film is them trying to set it up and doing auditions and then the actual thing at the end. And my only thing with it is that I would like to have seen more of, it felt a bit staged. Like, I know a lot of it is, but...
The Hamlet that they did in Grand Theft also felt a bit staged.
No, but you could tell the bits that were like genuinely recorded at the time of them talking to people on GTA and stuff. And that was the most entertaining bit for me.
So is it? It's not just a production of Hamlet, is it? It's about them.
It's like
finding a community.
Yeah, so it sort of starts with like two guys just chatting, and then they're like, "Oh, wouldn't it be funny if we tried to do Hamlet?" So yeah, that's my real commendation of the week. Should have a jingle for the real commendation.
We have a jingle for everything.
I know
now,
it's
don't we?
true. Yeah. Real stories. So before we go, we'd first like to thank our sponsor, and this week it is Trains. Tom, tell us about Trains.
Trains. Are you anywhere other than the UK?
Me? You talking to me?
Speak, audience member.
Okay. Do you want me to speak on their behalf?
Yep.
Maybe.
Then there's a strong chance that your trains are good. But if you're in the UK, I've got some bad news for you.
Oh, no.
Your trains are off the rails. If they're coming at 5 o'clock, they're coming at 5:30. If they're coming at 6 o'clock, they're coming at 9 o'clock. All I'll say, if you like trains, walk.
We'd also like to thank our other sponsors, Q Podcasts. If you're looking to start a podcast of your own or want to take a pre-existing one to the next level, Q is the company for you. They, we say this every week, but they helped us put this together, and we are eternally grateful. So yeah, give Q an email at hey@qpodcast.com to start your own podcast of your dreams. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to hit subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, such as Spotify, not iTunes, that's gone. Apple Podcasts. I mean, you're probably listening to this somewhere, so wherever you are, just subscribe there. And in the meantime, why not check out our social medias on the Instagrams, TikToks, and YouTube? We've been posting stuff, Tom, haven't we?
We have. We've been quite good at it.
Yeah, and we're going to do more. We're going to film some
many
stuff
more
after
things
this.
to come. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, good stuff. Also, we'd still like to know your own reel or reels, so please send them in via the Google Forms in the description. That's pretty much everything for this week. So until next time.
And to play us out, please welcome back.
Oh.
This is Alma Burgess.
Oh.
Listen to all real stories on all podcasting platforms. Until next time, keep it real.
Real stories. She's going to take my job.